Hello and welcome to Deliverability Solved. Where do you grow next? My name is Matthew Vernhout. I'm the Vice President Deliverability for Netcore Solutions. I'm going to walk you through some basics around email deliverability, and really how you can take your program to the next level once you sort of get the basics out of the way, get your deliverability sorted, and really get in that sweet spot of getting your messages to the users' inboxes, getting them engaged, getting them working through your program, and really sort of enjoying the messages that you send to them. Let's get right in. So here's all the things that you're doing right. You're opting in your messages. Your consumers really want to hear from you. They've asked to hear from you. You're authenticating your messages. You're using sender policy framework. You're using domain keys, identified mail. You're using DMARC. Maybe you've even thought about BIMI. So you've got all the basics taken care of from that point of view. Your deliverability is great. You're really out there. You are getting that inbox placement you want to get. Your bounces are low. People are opening, clicking, and converting like crazy. So what do you do now, right? Your program's right where you want it to be. All things are perfect. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Looking through all the different pieces that you've had to work on, getting things in line, getting things configured, set up, it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of work, and you might be tired already. But let's not wait, because the longer you sit back, the more opportunity there are for things to fail, fall through the cracks, or just stop working. So you got to keep an eye on all of these moving pieces. But how do you grow your program? Where do you get going next? Where do you get that next piece that's going to elevate your program one step farther? Well, something that I always say, and I'm sure I'm not the only person that said it, but deliverability is not a problem until it's a problem. So this is one of those things that you want to really, keep a focus on while you're making all of these changes, right? We don't want to take something that's really good right now and break it. We want to make sure that everything that you're going to do going forward and all the different pieces we're going to talk about today really stand out and really focus on keeping your deliverability solid and then elevating your program and taking it to the next level. So here are a few examples of things that you can do and you may already be doing, but deliverability is good. So let's start tweaking. Let's start iterating. Let's start taking all of these pieces and adding them in if you're not doing it already, right? So right from the get-go, building that welcome program, making sure you're communicating with your new subscribers, welcoming them, thanking them, giving them that discount. Maybe that's what they were really interested in. They want that 10% off their first purchase. So they went out of their way. They said, here's my address, give me that discount. But you want to just make sure that they're not here just for that discount. So you want to give them something extra in that welcome program, something that says, here's what's in it for you. After that, maybe you ask them a few questions. Maybe you send them a message that says, here's what you get out of being part of our email program. So it's not just another marketing campaign you send to them. You're giving them a bit of an introduction. You're giving them a bit of a warm, fuzzy feeling for being part of that program. Then they come back to your website and they're happy, but maybe they don't purchase today. They put some things in the cart and they don't buy. My wife is notorious for this. She shops online, puts all kinds of things in her cart, and just saves them for a long time. She sends me cart abandonment emails all the time as samples. So I know exactly the type of messaging that you guys are doing out there. So definitely work on your cart abandonment programs. Understand some people window shop and just fill up their carts for, warm, fuzzy feelings of their own. But that doesn't mean they're not engaged in your program and that they don't love your brand. It just means today they're not buying. Maybe they'll come back and buy next time. When you do notice people like that, or when you notice other things in your program that really don't make sense, or you're interested in finding out where should we go next? What do our consumers want? Using surveys, asking questions. This could be even one question at a time that's just somewhere in your email message as a, hey, what are your thoughts on this? Here's a multiple choice or a yes, no option, just to get a lay of the land from your subscribers. It doesn't have to be a dedicated program, but If you're really interested, send that dedicated survey, send that dedicated market research, and ask your consumers. But honestly, make sure you also listen to them. So if you're asking their advice, take it. Once you've gone through that program, you've had a wonderful time with these consumers. Everyone's happy, everyone's engaged in your program. Sometimes people get busy, or sometimes people, just don't have time to look at your marketing messages. Their inboxes are inundated. They're getting messages from all of your competitors as well as all the other brands that they do business with. So make sure that you're paying attention. And those people that were your all-star subscribers not too long ago that are now starting to slide, maybe become a little more inactive, a little less responsive, build in a win-back program. Think about what those consumers really want from your program. Ask them, take them to other channels. Say, hey, if you're no longer interested in email, maybe follow us on social media. Ask them if they're still interested. I just got a great email today from Twitch, of all places. I was not expecting this. So kudos to this Twitch team. I had not engaged in an email. I've been reading them, but I haven't been actioning them. I haven't been clicking. I haven't been going through those emails to see what's on the other side, simply because it wasn't the right time. It wasn't something that I was interested at that moment. So I just archived it and moved along. But they sent me an email today that said, hey, we've noticed you haven't clicked on anything recently. We're going to stop sending you these messages. But hey, if you really want to come back, just hit up your preferences. Tell us, and we'll start sending you these messages again. It was a great customer experience. It wasn't a hard sell. They weren't pushing me and making me feel bad for not engaging. They were simply saying, we've noticed you're just not interested right now. I still use the platform. I still log in. I still watch videos, still watch streams. I'm just not watching the stream that they were promoting to me, one that I'd actually asked them to promote to me, simply because at this point in time, I wasn't interested. So they paid attention and said, hey, come back when you're ready. They gave me that nice little send off sunsetting, made me feel great to the point where I was enjoying that message so much, I actually shared it with colleagues and said, this is really what brands should be doing. So it just came at just the right time for this presentation. After you've done all of these things and thought about your program, this is very holistic in that regards. We're going to look a little more closely at specific items within this. But, deliverability starts right from the point of address collection. Good collection practices, along with good data stewardship, leads to good deliverability. It really is one of those good data in, good data out scenarios. So think about it from that point of view. If you are having a half a dozen, multiple different data collection streams, if you're not paying attention to each one of those, how you're collecting people, how you're collecting addresses, getting subscriber information, go back, spend a little time on each one. Make sure you understand the data flow. Make sure you understand the consent practices. Are they standardized? Are they up to the requirements that you need for your local jurisdiction? Are they really where you want them to be? And are they giving the right and a consistent message to your subscribers? Take that, tag each one of those sources, give each one of those sources an ID. Make sure you tag where you collected that address from. This is going to be important for later when we get into some of the additional conversation we are going to have today. But really take a look and say, I went to this website, which is ID1, put it in. I collected this at a point of sale service, put the store number in so you have an idea of which store it came from or which terminal it came from. Maybe you collected it offline at an event. Give each event an ID. Keep that key card so you know which IDs mean things to you. So when we go back and look at reporting, you know what each of those services and each of those data collection points is really doing for your brand. And then consider how you're collecting these. Different sources really should have different consent models. There are lots of sources where point of sale, on the phone, your call center, maybe, there is a great opportunity for keystroke errors, for typos being introduced, for bad data entering the system. Maybe you look at, first off, an address validation service. Then maybe you want to look at sending those messages of confirmation, confirmed opt-in, saying, hey, To get our actual emails, click this link. Whereas someone who comes to your website, you might have really good control. You might have really good understanding of how those addresses get onto your program. You may only want to use a single opt-in. Just send them a welcome message, right? Not every program needs to have the exact same consent model. However, make sure you understand each consent model differently, how they differ. Make sure you understand each consent model and the additional areas for concern where it comes to just introducing bad data, and then take steps to protect yourself from those types of typos or keystroke errors where someone might be verbally telling another individual over the phone their email address. Once we've got all that data in the system, everything's tagged, we know where everybody's come from, start looking at your metrics. If you're not doing a domain-wise data review of your campaigns regularly, how are Gmail messages performing compared to Outlook.com messages, compared to Yahoo.com messages, right? Each of these user bases will perform slightly different. But I can't tell you how many times I've done a review for a client where things look great everywhere except for one domain. It's performing 50% less than the others. You would never have noticed that if you didn't do a domain-wise data review. We also did some talking about tags. So do a tag-wise data review. Take all your data sources, lump them all together, sort them out by tag, and say which tags, which data sources are really performing best for you. Are you getting the best engagement from people who come through your website? Or are you getting the best engagement for people who come through your call center? Because there's maybe an opportunity to have greater conversations with those individuals as they're subscribing. If you can find those data sources that are overperforming, invest heavier in them. If you have data sources that are way under indexing for whatever reason it happens to be, maybe it's a co-reg data feed or a partner data feed, and it's just not performing the way you want it to, or it's not performing to a standard that you expect it to, look at cutting that data feed and perform more, spend more time on those that are performing better. This is a great way to really understand the different pieces of your data sets that are working together and pushing you ahead or maybe even holding you back. After you've got all your reporting and you understand everything and what's going on, take a look at stepping up your design game, right? There are lots of new and engaging things to do with email. Everyone thinks email's been the same for 20 years. Well, we have AMP for email. Build interactivity into your email design. Allow people to browse, add to cart, get right into your integrated program without even leaving their inbox. Schema is also another great way to engage with consumers by adding functional buttons, functional cards, smart cards into your email program. So think about the email that you get when you book a flight. Now, I wish we could all travel. Trust me, I miss traveling probably as much as all of you do. But when you get those emails and it allows you to add your flights directly to your calendar with the push of a button, or reply to that meeting invite without actually opening the message, it's right there in the subject line. It's an RSVP button. Those types of things are all part of the schema program. They operate across the board at the major mailbox providers. These are things that you should really look at and pay attention to from the point of view of how do you step up the game and make your email that much more engaging. Also, something to consider going forward, this will be a hot topic in 2021, BIMI, or brand identification, brand identifiers for message identification. This is a very near and dear program to my heart, something that I've been very heavily involved with within the BIMI group. But being able to, as a brand, control the logo and image that shows up in the consumer's mailbox next to your brand name, that's a game changer for a lot of brands. I'm not going to go too deep into it because I know there's another session with BIMI coming up in the next in the event. So certainly, if you haven't seen it, watch the replay. If you're really interested in more in BIMI, pay attention to the bimigroup.org. But control your own logo. That is a game changer in a lot of ways for brands. Now that we've talked about changing your email program, think about how you can change your send game, right? We're going to talk about things, send time optimization. This is one of those programs that a lot of people consider, but never actually execute on. Send time optimization, for those of you that don't know what it is, basically looks at a historical data set for your consumer base and says, when does this individual regularly open email? Maybe I read my email between 4 and 5 p.m. So when should you send me that email? Between 4 and 5 p.m. because it's likely that I'm going to be in my inbox already. That's what send time optimization does, is it pays attention to your consumer's behavior and sends the message around the time they're typically seen reading your messages. Also, Verizon Media has recently come out with view time optimization. This works a little differently in regards to you can actually schedule messages to send, basically on a normal schedule that you would normally send it. What Verizon then does is they hold that message and they wait for the consumer to log in, and then they place that message at the top of their inbox. So the message may be sent today, but then maybe delivers 2 days from now to that consumer when they actually log into their inbox, and it goes right at the top of their inbox. That's the view time delivery, view time optimized delivery. It's a really interesting concept, but again, it's also very limited to the Verizon media space. So it also has quite an expensive barrier to entry. So if view time optimization is really not in your budget, do consider send time optimization if you're not doing it now. Certainly talk to your mailbox providers, to your email service provider about options for using a service such as send time optimization. Another option is the high engagement and performers first type deployment. So if you know you have that group of all-stars that want to read your email every time, compared to a group of people who are maybe in that less interested or disinterested bucket, schedule your messages to send to those people that are super engaged first. Give the signal of everybody wants to read this email. Give your message that boost. Then send to those other segments, and even consider sending those other segments different messaging or less frequent messaging. Give yourself a boost in the inbox by targeting active, engaged users first. Then your next best consumers. Treat them differently, treat them like the all-stars that they are. You know, I get also asked a lot about unsubscribes. People are afraid of unsubscribes. Oh my gosh, someone doesn't want to hear from me. Someone doesn't want my email anymore. And I don't understand why, because it's so good. I love sending it to them. There are lots of reasons that people unsubscribe. Maybe they've changed the way that they engage with your brand. Maybe they've changed the way that they want to hear from you. They're just not interested in email. They've maybe switched more to a social platform. They're following you on Twitter. They're following you on Instagram. They're really just not interested in getting your emails at the same time. Maybe they just come to your site regularly to purchase. So they don't need your emails because they're really just not interested in the same flyer every week, as an example. So make sure you take those unsubscribes, process them, manage them, stop sending those email communications to people. But use the social channels that allow you to do email retargeting to find those individuals and put your ads in front of them that way. Or maybe reach out and get them to follow you on other platforms. Promote that. You know, if someone is on Facebook, but they're not following your Facebook page, send them an ad to come follow your Facebook page. Send them an ad to follow you on Twitter. There are lots of opportunities to get people that are warm to your brand and already interested in doing business with you back into a channel that you can continue to communicate with them that is outside of email. So think about expanding that reach and really looking at these other platforms. Find where those consumers are and engage with them that way. Last, I would say, as a way to really boost your engagement is to give control back to the user. Build a preference center. Give them the option to tell you what they want to hear from you. I want to hear about weekly offers, and I want to hear about flash sales, and I want to hear breaking news. But maybe I don't care about surveys. Allow people to give you those questions, give you those control, like give that control back to them. Let them take control over the message they want to see. I only want to hear from you weekly, not daily, those types of things. Spend some time listening and looking at your existing data. This is another one that I think is very important for people to consider. There is a trend around significant holidays that maybe are sensitive to people due to having a loved one pass or having a person who's no longer with them. For example, Mother's Day, it's right around the corner, and people maybe have lost a mother. Maybe they don't speak to their mother, so they don't want to get Mother's Day promotions. So there are a number of brands right now sending communication saying, if you don't want to hear about our Mother's Day promotions, let us know. Chances are, if you sent me that last year and I said, I don't want to hear about your Mother's Day promotions last year, I probably don't want to hear about them again this year. So don't even bother asking. Just consider suppressing me. But make an option in your preference center to say, start sending me those again. Or maybe just have that as a blanket policy that says, suppress me from certain holidays that might be sensitive. That's one other thing I think that really gets me is holidays. Being in Canada, all their holidays are a little different than those in the US. Not all of them, but there are a number of them. Thanksgiving is a great example. Thanksgiving for Canada is in October. Thanksgiving for the United States is in November. Getting a Thanksgiving message as a Canadian mid-November, it just feels wrong and out of place. So understand where your consumers are. Listen to them, segment, and really pay attention to those little details, which will make consumers that much more happy to engage with you. And lastly, like I said, ask questions regularly. Consumers love to provide feedback, especially at the click of a button. Use that NPR score, right? The idea of how valuable was this email on a scale of 1 to 5, right? How are people, engaging in those messages? Really take that time to ask the odd question and give control back to the consumer, but really only do it if you're willing to listen and make those changes. So in conclusion, hopefully this touched on a few things that will spark an idea, will spark some type of action to give you that next level for your email program. Something to say, I've got deliverability covered. Now I can go and focus on these other things to really take engagement to that next level. So if you want to reach out and have a conversation, please reach out to engage@netcorecloud.com or follow me at Email Karma on Twitter. I love talking about email, and I'd love to talk to you. Thanks very much.